Beneath the dim glow of the kitchen's amber light, the faint aroma of freshly brewed coffee lingered, mingling with the sweet scent of sticky rice from the pudding I'd just finished cooking. The old wooden table, once the heart of our family gatherings every Christmas, now stood starkly empty except for me and my son, James. His eyes were sharp, cold, nothing like the warm, trusting gaze of the little boy who used to tug at my sleeve, begging for another slice of roast turkey. I sat there, clutching a steaming mug of tea, the warmth seeping through the white porcelain into my fingertips, yet doing nothing to thaw the icy dread creeping into my heart. "Mum," James said, his voice low but cutting like a blade. "You've got to choose. Me or Emma?" I nearly dropped my mug. Emma, my daughter-in-law, the woman I'd once thought of as a daughter, who'd entered our family with a radiant smile and promises of a joyful future. I looked at James, searching his face for a trace of the son who used to tell me everything. But there was none, just a taut intensity, as if he were bracing for battle. The kitchen, once filled with laughter, now felt suffocating, as though the air had been sucked out. "What are you talking about, James?" I asked, forcing my voice to stay steady, though my heart pounded like it might burst. "Why should I have to choose? We're a family." He let out a laugh, but it wasn't the warm, familiar sound I knew. It was bitter, laced with a hint of scorn. "A family? Do you really think Emma sees you as family? Do you know what she says behind your back? About the inheritance, about this house, about everything you own." I froze. This house, the home my husband and I had spent a lifetime building, filled with memories from our hardest days to our rare moments of joy, had become the battleground of a war I never wanted. I glanced around the kitchen, my eyes settling on the family photo hanging on the wall. In it, a young James held my hand and his father's, beaming under the sprawling branches of the oak tree in our garden. Now, my husband was gone, and James, the boy I used to hold close every night, stood before me, demanding I choose between him and the woman he'd vowed to love. "James, calm down," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "I don't understand. What has Emma done? You need to tell me." But James didn't answer straight away. He stood, striding toward the door, his tall frame disappearing into the dim hallway light. "Think about it, Mum," he said without turning back. "You can't stay on the fence forever." The door slammed shut, jolting me as if the ground had collapsed beneath me. I sat alone in the kitchen, now colder than ever. The tea had gone lukewarm, and I could feel my veins tightening, each pulse a reminder of the weight settling over me. Emma, my daughter-in-law, who brought me chamomile tea every Sunday, who sat with me folding napkins for Christmas dinner with care. Was it all an act? Or was James misreading something? And why was I being forced to choose? I stood and walked to the old oak shelf where I kept our family keepsakes. A small wooden box, its varnish worn thin, sat quietly among stacks of photo albums. I opened it and pulled out a letter James had written to me during his university days. "Mum, you're my everything." His scrawled words read, brimming with love despite their messiness. My eyes stung as I gripped the letter, the rough paper scraping against my palm. If James was right, if Emma truly had designs on my inheritance, what was I to do? Confront her or trust my son, even though he was backing me into a corner? Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the thin curtains. A dog barked faintly in the distance, like a warning. I glanced back at the family photo on the wall, and for the first time, I noticed that Emma's smile in the picture didn't quite reach her eyes. Something wasn't right, and I knew I couldn't stay still any longer. So, before you get too cozy, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you're truly hooked on what I'm sharing here. I need to uncover the truth. But is that truth worth risking my entire family? After James stormed out, the kitchen seemed to stretch out endlessly, the steady tick-tock of the wall clock echoing like a reminder of how swiftly time had slipped away. I sat there, my tea stone cold on the table, the chill from the tiled floor seeping up through my worn slippers. Outside, the crisp breeze of a late autumn evening in London began to stir, carrying the faint scent of bonfire smoke from nearby gardens, stirring memories of harvest festivals from years gone by, when the whole family would gather around a simple Sunday roast. My body felt leaden, every joint aching in protest against the shock that had just hit me. My hands trembled as I reached for the wooden box on the kitchen shelf, the one my husband had carved himself, etching delicate rose patterns into the lid. His last gift before the cancer took him. A light dusting of grime coated the top. I wiped it away with my sleeve, the rough wood grazing my skin like a whisper from the past. I lifted the lid, and the old letters spilled out, their pages yellowed with age, carrying the faint musty scent of faded ink mixed with the lingering aroma of incense from the family altar. The first one was from James, penned from his university halls over 20 years ago. "Dear Mom," it began, the handwriting still boyish and unsteady. "I miss you terribly. I did well in my exams today, thanks to the money you sent for books. I promise I'll study hard and make it up to you." A bitter smile tugged at my lips, tears streaming down my cheeks unnoticed. All those quiet sacrifices, selling my wedding ring to cover his tuition, staying up all night sewing for neighbors to earn a bit extra, or rising at dawn to make porridge when he was poorly. In our family, like so many British ones, a mother gives everything without a word, just hoping her children will thrive, settle down, and come back to look after her in turn. But now, that same son was forcing me to choose between him and Emma. I turned to another letter, from when James had just graduated and started at that foreign firm. "Mum, I'm marrying Emma soon. She's wonderful, you'll love her. I'll bring you to live with us so we can take care of you." Those words felt like a cruel joke now. Emma had arrived at our door with a vibrant bouquet of chrysanthemums, her smile shy like a traditional bride, kneeling respectfully before the family photos, as per our customs. I'd welcomed her like a daughter, teaching her how to make a proper shepherd's pie with all the trimmings, sharing tips on brewing the perfect cup of Earl Grey from leaves picked fresh. But lately, odd signs had started to appear, like the time I caught her rummaging through my desk drawer, where I keep the house deeds. She jumped, flashing an awkward smile. "Oh, Mom, I was just looking for scissors. I know where everything is in this house anyway." Her voice was sweet as honey, but her eyes darted away, hiding something unspoken. I set the letter aside and paced the kitchen, my feet numb on the cold tiles. The scent of sticky toffee pudding still hung in the air from the batch I'd made that afternoon. James's favorite since he was a lad. I thought back to those tough days after my husband passed, when I soldiered on alone, flogging bits and bobs at the local market stall to put him through school. He'd hugged me tight, sobbing, "You've had it so hard. Mom, I won't let you struggle anymore." Now here he was, talking about inheritance, about this house, our modest 3-bedroom semi on the outskirts of London, the one I'd scrimped and saved my whole life to buy. Was Emma behind it? She'd asked about the property deeds once, with feigned concern. "Mom, where do you keep the house papers? What if they got lost?" I'd just smiled then, thinking she was fretting for my sake. But James's words echoed. "Do you know what she says behind your back?" I resolved to dig deeper. Leaving the kitchen, I headed upstairs to James and Emma's bedroom. The door was ajar, the wind whistling through the window cracks, making the curtains flutter like ghosts. I pushed it open gently, my heart hammering like a drum. The room was tidy, Emma's subtle perfume still lingering. On the dressing table, a notebook lay open, as if recently abandoned. I hesitated, then picked it up. Scrawled notes. Mum's house, 200,000, split evenly among James's siblings. Need to persuade James soon. My heart clenched like a vice. It was Emma's handwriting, elegant but now chillingly calculated. Was she plotting over my assets, all while I'd treated her like my own, even gifting her my pearl necklace as a wedding present? I sank onto the bed, the notebook shaking in my grasp. Thinking back, Emma had shared stories of her family's hardships in rural Wales, her parents scraping by on the farm. I'd sympathized, even sent money to help out. But was it all a facade? Footsteps echoed from downstairs. Someone was home. I hurriedly replaced the notebook, my mind swirling with doubt. As I stepped out, I bumped into Emma on the stairs, bag in hand, beaming brightly. "Mum, sorry I'm late." "Where's James?" "I picked up some fish and chips for your supper." I stared at her, forcing my voice steady. "He's gone out." "Have you eaten?" Emma nodded, but her gaze flicked over me, probing. We sat in the kitchen to eat, the clink of cutlery against plates the only sound. Emma asked, "You all right today?" "Mum, you look knackered." I managed a weak smile. "Yes, just getting on a bit. Love, missing your dad, that's all." She squeezed my hand. "Don't worry, James and I will look after you." But those words rang hollow now, a veiled threat lurking beneath. Once she'd gone upstairs, I sat alone, clutching the box of letters. All my sacrifices, from giving up my own education to raise him, to those sleepless nights worrying about his future, now threatened by my own daughter-in-law. What was I to do? Confront Emma? Wait for James to explain? Outside, rain began pattering on the roof, like my husband's distant whisper. "Look out for yourself." love, and then the phone rang an unknown number. I answered. A woman's voice on the line. Hello. Is this you? I'm a friend of Emma's. We need to talk about the inheritance. My heart stopped. Who is this? And why now? After that bizarre phone call, I slumped onto the old sofa in the living room. The one my husband used to claim every morning for his newspaper, its faded fabric worn thin and indented from years of his weight. The woman's voice still echoed in my ears, shrill and loaded with insinuation. Hello, it's me, a friend of Emma's. We need to chat about the inheritance. Emma says you should sort it out soon. Then the line went dead, as if someone had yanked the plug. My heart raced wildly. I pressed a hand to my chest, feeling like it might explode. Outside, the rain pattered steadily on the slate roof, water dripping from the gutters onto the brick patio, creating a melancholy symphony that blended with the earthy dampness seeping through the window cracks. I glanced around the living room, at the framed embroideries hanging on the walls, scenes of English countryside and wild flowers. I'd stitched myself during those sleepless nights after he passed. Now, they seemed to stare back at me, judging my years of quiet endurance. I tried to steady myself, getting up to brew a pot of ginger tea, the sharp, spicy aroma hitting my nostrils and reminding me of sickly days when James would sit by my bed, spooning porridge into my mouth. But where was he now? After his ultimatum in the kitchen, he'd vanished, leaving me alone with Emma and the doubts gnawing at my soul. Emma was still upstairs, her footsteps light and careful, as if trying not to disturb. I cradled the hot mug, the warmth spreading through my chilled palms, but it couldn't touch the ice inside. I wondered, why had I stayed silent all this time? In our family, like so many British ones, mums often bite their tongues to keep the peace, Lise said. Soonest mended, as they say. But what was the cost of that silence? Letting my daughter-in-law scheme over my assets behind my back, watching my son turn against me, I resolved to face myself first, heading to the bedroom, where the walnut bed still carried that familiar aged wood scent. I opened the wardrobe and pulled out my savings passbook, the one I'd built up over a lifetime. From market stall earnings to my modest pension, the yellowed pages listed humble sums, but enough to see me through without relying on anyone. Emma had asked about it once. All concerned, Mum, which bank holds your savings? I'm worried about the low interest rates. I just smiled. I'm used to it. Love, no bother. But now, those words sounded so contrived. I sat on the bed, the book heavy on my lap, its rough pages scraping against my skin. Was Emma plotting to carve it all up? And James, did he know, or was he in on it? The inner turmoil surged like a storm. Part of me wanted to ring James right then and shout down the line, son, I choose you. But Emma has to go. Yet the traditional mum in me whispered, don't rush, save face for him. Family comes first. I recalled my grand's old saying, blood is thicker than water. But Emma wasn't blood, and her actions were making me question everything. I stood and stepped out onto the balcony, the wind and rain lashing my face, cold droplets soaking through my cardigan and making me shiver. Below, the ancient oak tree swayed in the garden, leaves scattering like omens of the fracture ahead. Then the phone rang again. It was James. I answered, my voice shaky. James. Where are you? He sighed on the other end, Mum. I'm at the cafe down the road. What do you think about what I said? I hesitated, the words catching in my throat. I don't know. She's your wife. After all, he scoffed, my wife. She's only after the money. Mum, last night, I overheard her on the phone to a solicitor, asking about inheritance laws. My heart twisted like a knot. More proof. But why hadn't he told me sooner? Are you sure? I whispered. Dead certain. Mum, but you have to choose. If you pick her, I'm gone. His voice brimmed with anger. But there was a pleading edge, like the boy who used to beg for sweets. I hung up and collapsed onto the balcony floor, rain mingling with my tears. What was the cost of silence? Letting the family shatter without a fight, or standing up, even if it meant pain. I thought of my husband. He'd always said, be strong. Love, don't let anyone take advantage. But how to be strong when your own son was forcing your hand? I decided I needed more evidence. Heading back inside, toweling off, I heard Emma in the kitchen. She was washing up, the trickle of water and faint lemony soap scent filling the air. I stood in the doorway, watching. She turned, flashing her usual smile. Mom, you look freezing. Shall I make you some tea? Her tone was honey-sweet, but her eyes shifted away, concealing something. We sat across the dining table, steaming mugs between us. Emma asked, did James ring? He's cross with me about something. I met her gaze steadily. You know what it is? Emma. About the inheritance. She flinched, nearly spilling her tea. Inheritance. What do you mean? I'm just worried for you. But her voice pitched higher. Unnatural? I stayed quiet, studying her. She pressed on Mum. We have to stick together as a family. James gets jealous sometimes, but I love you like my own mom. Those words had a hidden layer love like her own. But was it for the legacy? I nodded. Yes, I know, but I'm knackered now. I rose, my mind swirling with suspicion. Was she putting on an act or truly innocent? That night, I lay awake, the rain drumming steadily on the window, the musty damp from the old walls creeping in. I pondered the morals. As a mom, did I have the right to doubt my daughter-in-law, or should I trust my son? Even if he was backing me into a corner, the cost of silence was letting things fester. I made up my mind action tomorrow. First thing, I'd call my old friend, Mrs. Hargreaves. She used to work at the bank to check on my savings. But then, in the dead of night, a creak at the door. Someone was rummaging downstairs in the kitchen. My heart pounded. Was it Emma or James back? I sat up, gripping the broom handle, and crept out. The hallway was pitch black. Soft footsteps echoing up. I whispered, "Who's there?" No answer. Then a shadow darted past, and the back door slammed shut. Who had broken in, and what were they after? The next morning, weak sunlight filtered through the bedroom curtains, casting a glow on the polished wooden floor I'd scrubbed every week, with the faint beeswax scent still lingering from the last time. I woke feeling leaden, as if last night's rain had seeped into my bones, making my joints creak with every movement as I sat up. The sparrows chirped faintly outside on the balcony, but their cheerful noise couldn't dispel the anxiety clinging to my mind. The kitchen still carried the whiff of last night's fish and chips that Emma had brought home, but just thinking about it now turned my stomach. I brewed a pot of Earl Grey, using leaves I'd picked up from the market last summer, the gentle aroma spreading through the air, reminding me of peaceful days when my husband was alive. We'd sit together, sipping tea and chatting about the neighbors. But now, the brew only stirred thoughts of the lies that might be lurking right here in our home. I knew I had to act. I couldn't just sit and wait for James or Emma to confess. I slipped into my old cotton cardigan, the soft fabric hugging my frail frame, and stepped out, the crisp morning breeze whipping my face, carrying the smoky scent from nearby chimneys. The local market wasn't far the place where I'd flogged veg to raise James. But today, I wasn't heading there. I was off to see Mrs. Hargreaves, my old friend from our school days, when we'd learned sewing together at the local workshop. She lived alone now in a modest cottage by the Thames, after her husband drowned in a boating accident. Mrs. Hargreaves was a woman of few words, but sharp as a tack, always seeing through people without needing to pry. In our circle of old friends, us women from that generation, friendships were quiet supports, not flashy, but solid as an ancient oak. I hailed a cab, the engine rumbling loudly amid the pungent petrol fumes, making my head buzz. Through the window, I watched the street cafes serving steaming full English breakfasts, smoke curling up as Londoners hustled through their daily grind. Where was James now? I wondered. After last night's call, he'd gone silent, no texts, no rings. And Emma, she'd been up early this morning, whipping up porridge with pickled onions, a simple staple for someone my age, and smiling. Eat up. Mom, keep your strength. I'm off to work. Her voice was as sweet as ever, but I caught the undercurrent like she was testing if I suspected anything. I gritted my teeth, forcing down the bland spoonfuls, the oats sliding tastelessly down my throat. At Mrs. Hargreaves' place, the weathered oak cottage with its red brick patio, a pear tree heavy with fruit in the corner, the sweet ripeness mingling with incense from her little shrine. She opened the door, her wrinkled face lighting up with keen eyes. There you are. Come in. Love, we haven't caught up in ages. We settled on the porch, beside a pot of spicy ginger tea, the Thames breeze whistling by, bringing the muddy river tang. She poured, her hands trembling with age, but her voice steady. You look shattered. Trouble with James and Emma. Is it? I spilled it all from James's ultimatum in the kitchen to Emma's notebook, the odd call, and that shadow last night. Mrs. Hargreaves listened without interrupting, just sipping her tea, the cup clinking softly on the wooden table. When I finished, she sighed and set it down. Oh, dear, I've known about Emma for a while, but I didn't want to meddle in your family affairs. My heart clenched like a fist. Known what? Tell me I can't take much more. She gazed out at the river, where barges drifted lazily, ripples sparkling in the morning sun. Emma, she's not as straightforward as she seems. Before marrying James, she worked at an estate agency, dealing in property sales. A mate of mine there said Emma was always sniffing around clients' assets, even got suspected of forging documents to swipe some deals. No proof, though, so she quit. Then met James. Her words hit like a thunderbolt. I gripped the chair arm, nails digging into the wood, a sharp pain shooting up my arm. Emma, my daughter-in-law, the one I'd taught to make mince pies for Christmas, who brought fruit to lay at my husband's photo, had a past like that. Why didn't you say sooner? I asked, voice quivering. Mrs. Hargreaves smiled sadly. Love, family's private. I thought she'd turned over a new leaf, but now, maybe not. And James, does he know? Or is she pulling his strings? I shook my head. Tears streaming, he's forcing me to choose. But I suspect he knows. Last night, someone was rooting around the house. She stood and went inside, returning with a tiny silver USB stick glinting in the light. Here, I copied this from my friend. Emma's old file from the agency. Not legal proof, but enough to open your eyes. Have a look, then decide. I took it, the metal cold in my palm like a ticking bomb. We sat there as Mrs. Hargreaves shared tales of similar woes from our old neighborhood daughters-in-law, clashing over inheritances with mums-in-law, tearing families apart. In our British way, assets are legacies, but they spark endless rows, especially when the young lot gets swayed by modern life, putting cash over kin. I headed home, my mind reeling. Emma was at work, the house empty, the clock ticking like a relentless reminder. I plugged the USB into my husband's old computer, the screen flickering to life with PDF files. Employee records. Emma flagged for opaque conduct in property transactions. An internal email. Warning unauthorized asset checks on clients. My heart hammered, sweat beating despite the cool room. Was this evidence or a misunderstanding? I copied the files, stashing them in the letterbox, my resolve wavering. As a mom, I wanted to shield James. But if Emma was truly rotten, what then? Tell him or safeguard myself. That afternoon, James rang Mum. I'll be home tonight. We need to talk. His voice was weary, but with an edge like a warning. I agreed, fear knotting inside. Then Emma got back early, clutching a bunch of white chrysanthemums flowers for remembrance. Mum, it's the anniversary of Dad's passing. I got these for his photo. I startled. Had I forgotten amid all this? Emma smiled. You're so preoccupied. I'll handle it. But her eyes flicked to the desk, where the computer sat open. Did she know? Evening came, and James arrived. The three of us sat at the table with the shepherd's pie I'd rustled up, the herby aroma filling the air. Tension hung thick, cutlery clinking awkwardly. James broke the silence. Have you chosen yet? Mum. Emma glanced at me, her smile strained. Chosen what? Love. As long as you're well. That's all that matters. I stayed quiet, but in my head, a plan was forming how to protect myself. Mrs. Hargreaves called just then. Hello. I've got more on Emma. She's seeing a solicitor. But I hung up quick. Was someone eavesdropping? And under the table, a hand brushed mine lightly. Was it Emma's or James's? My heart froze. Who was the real ally here? And who the enemy lurking in the shadows? That dinner wrapped up in a thick, oppressive silence. The lingering aroma of the fish stew still hanging in the kitchen air, sharp and bitter like the emotions surging inside me. The sporadic clink of spoons against bowls mixed with the chilly autumn wind, whistling through the window cracks, carrying the damp cold from the nearby Thames and raising goosebumps on my skin. Even though the kitchen retained some warmth from the gas hob, James sat opposite, his fork held loosely, staring blankly into his bowl of plain rice as if wrestling with his own demons. Emma beside him, her smile still plastered on, but looking forced now, idly stirring her spoon in the stew, creating little swirls that mirrored the secrets churning in my head. Under the table, whose hand was it that brushed my knee, a fleeting touch, warm but loaded with intent, making me startle and nearly drop my fork? James, trying to comfort, or Emma, probing. I didn't dare look down, just gripped the edge of the wooden table, the rough grain digging into my palms like a warning that everything was slipping away, no longer solid. After the meal, Emma got up to clear away, the plates rattling as they clattered together, and she washed up under the tap, the water trickling like hushed whispers. Mum, you go rest, I'll handle this, she said, her voice as sweet as honey but with an undercurrent like she was trying to keep the peace or cover her tracks. James slipped out to the balcony without a word, lighting a cigarette, the smoke drifting lazily under the yellowish street lamp, mingling with the faint dampness left from last night's rain. I sat there, my cup of Earl Grey gone cold in my hands, its delicate bergamot now tasting flat, unable to chase away the anxiety squeezing my chest. Mrs. Hargreaves' USB was still in my cardigan pocket, weighing heavy like a time bomb, packed with evidence of Emma's past. I had to do something, couldn't just wait any longer. In our family, like so many British ones, mums are the ones who keep the home fires burning, biting their tongues for the kids' sake. But now that fire was spreading, scorching me from the inside. I decided to start with a straight talk to James, my son, who'd once been my whole world, waiting until Emma headed upstairs to change. Her footsteps light on the creaky wooden stairs. I stepped out onto the balcony, the cold wind slapping my face, laced with the acrid smoke from James's half-smoked fag. He turned, his eyes red-rimmed under the light from the smoke, or something else. "Mom," he said first, his voice low but trembling slightly. "I'm sorry about the ultimatum yesterday, but you have to understand. Emma, she's not what you think." I stood beside him, gripping the icy iron railing, gazing out at the quiet street with its shuttered shops, neon signs flickering sporadically. "James, I've thought it through," I said, keeping my voice steady despite my heart pounding like a drum. "I don't want to choose anyone. We're family, but I need the truth. You say Emma's scheming over the assets, but do you have proof?" James stubbed out his cigarette in the ashtray, the faint sizzle cutting the air as the smoke dissipated. He looked at me, his eyes wavering like he was weighing his words. "Proof. Mum," I overheard her on the phone to a mate, "talking about your property and the savings book. She keeps asking me about it." His tone had an edge, anger mixed with hesitation, as if he wasn't entirely sure. I clutched the railing tighter, nails scraping the flaking paint, a sting shooting up my arm. "Then why not tell me sooner? Why force me to pick sides?" I asked, my voice rising more than I'd meant, the wind carrying it off, blending with the roar of a passing motorbike. James sighed, turning away because I love her. "Mom, but I don't want you getting taken for a ride. We've had it tough enough since Dad passed." His words caught, stirring memories of those hard times selling my jewelry to cover the funeral. James ditching his evening classes to help out with odd jobs. I pulled the USB from my pocket and handed it to him, my hand shaking under the light. "Here, I've got this. From my friend, about Emma's past." James took it, his fingers brushing mine, warm but distant. Her past. She told me all about it. Worked in estate agents, quit because of the stress. His voice was defensive, eyes darting away like he was hiding something. A wave of anger rose in me, hot and fierce from my chest stress. Or because she was suspected of dodgy dealings. James read it. I don't want to believe it, but he shoved the USB in his pocket, face flushing. "Mom, why are you investigating my wife? Is this a family or a courtroom?" His voice boomed, the wind whipping it around, probably reaching the neighbors behind their curtains. I froze, tears streaming, "Because I'm scared of losing you, losing everything. You forced me to choose, and now you're blaming me." That tense exchange laid bare a deeper rift, not just between me and Emma, but me and James. He'd once been the dutiful son, bringing home his first wage packet to buy me a woolen scarf. Now he stood there, defending his wife while doubting his mum. We headed back inside, the air stuffy, the smoke clinging to James's jacket. Emma came down to the kitchen with a tray of fruit-ripe pears, their sweet scent filling the room. "James, Mum, have some fruit. It's getting late," she smiled, but her eyes scanned us, probing. We sat around the table, the knife slicing through the pears with a crisp snick, the juicy bites tangy on my tongue, but a bitterness lingered. James ate quickly and stood. "I'm knackered. We'll talk tomorrow." Emma followed him upstairs, her hand on his shoulder, murmuring something I couldn't catch. I sat alone, nibbling the last slice, the juice sticky on my fingers. My plan to confront head-on had gone off the rails. James didn't believe me, or was he being manipulated? I resolved to push on tomorrow morning. I'd head to the bank to check the savings account, see if anyone's tampered with it. But then, the unexpected struck. In the dead of night, I woke to an odd noise, the click of a lock downstairs in the kitchen. Heart racing. I sat up, bare feet hitting the cold floor, and crept into the dark hallway. Whispers floated up. "Hurry. Find the deeds." A strange man's voice, mixed with Emma's shush. "James is asleep." I went rigid, hand on the wall, nails scratching the paint, blood trickling unnoticed. "Emma." With someone, I backed away, bumping the side table with the family photo, a vase clattering loudly. Downstairs went silent. Then the back door slammed. The next morning, Emma was up early, rustling up chicken porridge, the ginger and lemongrass wafting through. Her smile bright. Mom, I heard a noise last night. You all right? I eyed her, forcing calm. Fine. Love, just a dream. But inside, I was in turmoil. James came down, looking worn. Mom, I've been thinking we should chat to a solicitor about the inheritance. His words cut like a knife. But who was really pulling the strings? Emma or James? Or both? I nodded. But in my mind, a new plan took shape. I'd pretend to go along, to draw them out. But then, the phone rang. Mrs. Hargreaves. Hello. I found out more. Emma's not her real name. My heart stopped. What truth was this now? After that shocking call from Mrs. Hargreaves about Emma's real name, I slumped onto the sofa in the living room, the one where my husband used to settle every evening with his book, its faded upholstery worn and indented from years of his presence, now cradling my weary frame like a reluctant embrace. My heart raced wildly, pounding so hard I had to press a hand to my chest, feeling as if it might burst under the weight of these piling secrets. Outside, the afternoon sun in London slanted through the thin curtains, casting long streaks of light across the old tiled floor, stirring up a faint dustiness as I shifted, mingling with the lingering scent of incense from the family shrine I'd lit that morning. Mrs. Hargreaves had said Emma wasn't her real name, that she changed it after some messy property dispute back in rural Wales, where her family lost everything in a bitter court battle. Be careful. Love, Mrs. Hargreaves had whispered down the line, her voice trembling like a breeze over the Thames. She might be using James to get at your assets. I hung up, my hand shaking so badly the phone nearly slipped, the cold metal sticking to my sweat-damp palm. Emma, or whoever she really was right there in my house, dishing up chicken porridge for breakfast, beaming as if nothing was amiss. I glanced up at the shrine, my husband's photo smiling kindly down, as if asking, what will you do now? Love. I resolved to stay calm, not let on. In our family, like so many British ones, mealtimes are for bonding, but they're also where tensions erupt, everyone holding on to their dignity until the last moment. I called James and Emma into the kitchen, pretending all was well. I've made a nice chicken casserole today, your dad's favorite. Let's eat together. It's been ages since we had a proper family meal. Emma nodded, her eyes sparkling under the yellowish kitchen light. Lovely. Mum, shall I help? James, come down. James trudged down from upstairs, still looking knackered after last night's row, the faint whiff of tobacco on his shirt, reminding me of those times he'd sneak a smoke after his dad passed, to chase away the grief. We gathered around the old wooden table, the savory aroma of the casserole wafting from the earthenware dish, blended with fresh herbs and a tangy mustard sauce, the clink of cutlery against plates, like the opening act of a domestic drama. But the meal quickly turned into a battlefield. James served me a portion, his voice low here. Mum, you're looking too thin. Emma smiled, but her gaze flicked to him. You're so worried about Mum? Why not me? You snapped at me last night about money again. I froze, my fork hovering midair. A bit of fluffy mash stuck to the tines. James whipped round money. What are you on about? Emma, it's you who's always quizzing Mum about the house deeds. His voice rose sharp, laced with exhaustion and pent-up fury, like it'd been bottled up too long. Emma set her fork down with a clatter, her face flushing under the light. I'm asking because I care about the family. Mum's getting on. What if something happens? Do you think I'm greedy? She turned to me, eyes brimming. Mum, it's not like that. I just want things sorted properly. Legally, I sat in the middle, feeling like I was teetering on a knife edge, the ceiling fan whirring overhead, stirring the cooling food smells and chilling my skin, despite the kitchen's warmth. In British families, rows over inheritance are often hushed up, whispered behind closed doors. But here it was exploding into the open, like a pot boiling over. I tried to intervene. Come on, Love's eat up. I'm still here. No need to fret yet. But James wouldn't let it go, Mum. Truth is, Emma, she used to work in property. You know, there was some dodgy stuff back then. Emma shot up, the chair scraping harshly on the floor. Why drag up my past? I changed my name to start fresh. After Dad died in that lawsuit, you know that. Her voice cracked, tears streaming down her cheeks. But I spotted the undercurrent, not pure hurt, but like she was performing, trying to sway me to her side. Just then, the phone rang. It was James's aunt and uncle, the extended family. I answered, and Aunt Evelyn, my late husband's sister, came through. Hello. Dear, heard from James. What's this about the inheritance? I'm with him. Emma's a bit off. I jolted, accidentally putting it on speaker. Aunt Evelyn's voice booming through the kitchen. You're not getting any younger. Need to sort it out clear. But Emma shouldn't have designs on it. Emma overheard, her face paling. Mum, what's Aunt Evelyn saying? Designs. James jumped in. See, Mum, the whole family's suspicious of Emma. Aunt Evelyn, Uncle Harold, they're all on my side. The room spun. The food smells turning nauseating, my stomach twisting. The relatives, Uncle Harold down in Bristol, Aunt Evelyn on the outskirts, were picking sides now. Like in those old family tales where wills drive siblings apart, Aunt Evelyn went on love. I'd say side with James. Emma's from out in the sticks, who knows her history. Emma sobbed loudly, I'm leaving. I can't stay here. She bolted upstairs, her footsteps thumping on the wooden stairs. The bedroom door slamming shut. James looked at me, eyes bloodshot. Mum, she's dodging it. You have to choose. I sat there, gripping the table edge, the wood grain biting into my skin. Who was I protecting? James, my own flesh and blood, or Emma, whom I'd once treated like a daughter? Or myself? With this house, the savings, everything I'd scrimped for over a lifetime. The phone rang again. Uncle Harold says, I'm backing Emma. James is just jealous because she cares more about you. Sides were splitting, like cracks in the old house walls, spreading under fresh paint. I hung up, stood to clear the table, plates clattering, my tears mixing with the dishwater, salty as life's bitter twists. That evening, the house was deathly quiet, the wind howling outside the windows. Carrying the scent of impending rain, James sat on the balcony, chain smoking, clouds of smoke billowing. Emma was upstairs, her muffled sobs drifting down. I lay in bed, clutching my husband's photo, the glossy paper cold under my fingers. The family dinner, a symbol of togetherness, had become a war zone, leaving me with the gnawing question, who do I protect when the family's falling apart? Then, in the small hours, a soft creak at the door, someone rifling through the shrine drawer where I hide the deeds. My heart hammered. I sat up, gripping the broom handle. Was it James, Emma, or someone else from the family factions? I crept out, the hallway pitch black, a shadow flitting by, and then a familiar voice whispered, Mum, I need the papers. But whose voice was it? After that disastrous family dinner, the house felt shrouded in a thick fog, not from kitchen steam or rainy mist, but from the heavy words still hanging in the air, making every breath I took feel like a struggle. The wind howled outside the balcony windows, carrying the musty scent from the ancient oak trees in the garden, whispering secrets I hadn't yet grasped. I sat alone in the living room, clutching the photo of my husband from the shrine, its glossy surface now icy cold under my fingers, as if he were warning me from beyond the grave. James had stormed upstairs, the slam of his door still echoing in my mind, mingled with Emma's muffled sobs from above, a sound that now rang so false, like rain pattering on a tin roof. Masking any real tears, my body felt leaden, joints creaking with every attempt to stand. But I knew I couldn't just sit there. That voice from last night, Mum, I need the papers, haunted me. So vague, I couldn't tell if it was James or Emma, or even a hallucination born from the fear gnawing at my soul. I resolved to dig deeper. I couldn't let these cracks spread without finding their source. In our family, like so many British ones, secrets are often tucked away behind closed doors, where straight talk is seen as a bit indelicate. But now I had to break that rule to protect myself. I crept upstairs, bare feet on the chilly wooden floor, each step a challenge to the shadows enveloping the house. James and Emma's bedroom door was ajar, the dim bedside lamp casting long, eerie shadows on the walls like ghostly fingers beckoning. I pushed it open gently, the hinge creaking just enough to make my heart clench. Inside, James was asleep, his snoring steady and labored, while Emma sat at the dressing table, back to the door, phone in hand, murmuring something I couldn't make out. I slipped in, the rough wood grain pressing into my soles, and headed for the old wardrobe where I'd hidden the family's important documents, the ones my husband had left before he passed. The walnut wardrobe was heavy and solid, its aged scent mixed with Emma's perfume, making the air feel stifling. I pulled open the bottom drawer, my hands trembling as they brushed the dusty papers, the fine grit clinging to my fingertips like a reminder of time's relentless march. Inside were the old files, the house deeds, savings book, and a small rusted tin box that my husband had once urged keep this safe. Love, don't let anyone know. I clicked open the lock with a soft snap and pulled out a bundle of yellowed papers, handwritten letters, old contracts, and a little leather-bound notebook, its cover cracked with age, It was my husband's, filled with notes on property deals from his days at the building firm. I flipped through, his sharp handwriting still clear despite the faded pages, the musty ink smell wafting up, evoking those nights he'd scribble under the lamplight during power cuts. Then I spotted an odd sheet tucked in, not in his hand, a photocopied birth certificate for Emily Jane Hargrove, not Emma, but her old name, as Mrs. Hargreaves had revealed. Below was a note in my husband's script. Check Emma's background before James marries. Trouble back home, land dispute with her siblings. Don't let our boy suffer. My heart stopped, squeezed tight, my breath's coming in sharp pains. He'd known. He'd investigated Emma beforehand. But why not tell me? I sank to the wardrobe floor, the notebook heavy on my lap, its rough pages scraping through my thin nightie. Emma or Emily had fought over land with her own family in rural Wales, leaving her parents homeless. According to the further notes, changed name to dodge lawsuits. James doesn't know. This revelation shattered my trust. Emma wasn't the innocent she'd sobbed about. But my husband had hidden it to shield James. Or had he suspected too? I turned the page, and a letter tumbled out. Envelope already slit. Addressed from Wales in scrawled writing, Sis. I need cash urgently for the old man's share of the land. Don't forget your hubby James has to help. Signed, your brother. My pulse thundered, blood rushing to my ears like a storm. Was Emma being hounded by her brother for debts, or using James to grab my assets as compensation? I clutched the letter, crumpling it in my palm, sweat blurring the ink. The woman I'd trusted, Emma, with her shy smile as a new bride, cooking those hearty Welsh stews to please her mother-in-law, now exposed with a shady past. But there was more, an old photo in the box. My husband with a stranger, a Welsh field behind them. Caption, old mate, help check Emily's history. He'd quietly safeguarded us, but why the silence? And James, did he know? I stood shakily, bumping the dressing table, bottles tinkling softly. Emma spun round, eyes wide in the lamplight. Mum, what are you doing here? Her voice pitched high, laced with fear and anger, like she'd been caught red-handed. I hid the notebook behind my back, forcing calm, just looking for old things. You get some sleep. But Emma rose, stepping closer, her perfume cloying and overpowering now. Old things. What's that you're holding? She reached out, but I backed away. Nothing. Love. I'm knackered. Emma forced a smile, her gaze darting to the open wardrobe. You suspect me, don't you? After tonight's dinner, what did James tell you? Her tone layered pleading, but with a threat, like she was fishing for how much I knew. We stood there, tension thick, James's breathing steady from the bed. I slipped out, closing the door softly, but my heart raced on. Down in the kitchen, I brewed ginger tea, the sharp spice stinging my eyes. I sat at the table, notebook open under the yellowish light, its pages glaring back. Emma wasn't innocent, but who was the mastermind? Her using James for my assets, or James in on it? Given his talk of we should see a solicitor about the inheritance, I recalled last night's shadow, maybe her brother, sneaking in for the papers, or James staging it to force my hand. The next morning, James came down early, looking gaunt, the bitter aroma of his brewed coffee filling the air like our mood. Mum, sorry about yesterday. Aunt Evelyn. Uncle Harold, they're just worried for you. I studied his eyes, James. I found this. I handed him the brother's letter. He took it. Face draining of color. What's this? Mum, her brother. I didn't know, but his voice quavered, eyes shifting. Emma appeared then, tray of toast in hand. Breakfast. Mum, James, what are you telling her? The air tensed again, spoons clinking in coffee mugs. James tossed the letter on the table. Explain this. Emma, your brother's after money. Emma burst into tears. It's old news. I didn't want Mum knowing, but I caught the undercurrent. She wasn't shocked. Like she'd rehearsed it. Breakfast turned into an interrogation. Voices echoing an argument. James yelled, Mum, choose. Emma's conning us. Emma sobbed, Mum. Believe me, James wants to sell the house. I sat amid the chaos, head spinning. Who was orchestrating this? Then the phone rang, an unknown number. Hello, it's me, Emma's brother. We need to meet. My heart froze. The secrets behind closed doors were spilling out. But where would they lead? After that call from Emma's brother, or Emily, her real name, I slumped into the kitchen chair, the old wooden one where my husband used to perch every morning with his black coffee, its peeling varnish now scraping against my skin, like a reminder of the irreparable cracks in life. The man's voice still echoed in my ears, shrill and menacing. Hello, it's me, Emma's brother. We need to meet about the land share. Emma promised to split it. My heart raced wildly, pounding so hard I had to press a hand to my chest, feeling like it might shatter under the mounting secrets piling up like dust on the family shrine. Outside, dark clouds rolled in, the crisp autumn wind in London picking up, carrying the damp earthiness from the brick patio, signaling an impending downpour that might wash everything away or sweep off what little remained. I glanced around the kitchen, the bitter scent of James's morning coffee still lingering, mixed with the ginger from my unfinished tea, twisting my stomach into knots. Emma and James were upstairs, their argument drifting down. James's voice sharp. "Explain yourself. What does your brother want?" Emma sobbed. "Stop doubting me. It's ancient history." But her tone had an undercurrent, not pure anguish, but like she was concealing something, akin to those indirect whispers in British families, where truths are buried to save face. I knew I had to confront it head on. I couldn't let these shadows lurk in the house forever. In our family traditions, direct clashes are often seen as a lack of patience. But now I had no choice. I called James down, my voice soft but firm. "James, we need to talk. Outside it's about to pour." He came down, looking gaunt, the tobacco smell clinging to his white shirt, his eyes red-rimmed under the yellowish kitchen light. "Now, Mum, Emma's up there crying." I shook my head, grabbing his hand and pulling him to the garden. "That's why. I don't want her overhearing." We stepped out, the wind whipping our faces, stirring fine dust from the quiet street, where neighbors were shutting windows against the storm. The old oak in the garden swayed, leaves scattering like omens of the fracture ahead. James met my gaze, his eyes wavering. "What else have you found?" "Mum, that letter. I swear I didn't know." The rain started, fat drops pattering on the slate roof, icy cold seeping through my thin cotton cardigan, raising goosebumps on my skin. We sheltered under the oak's canopy, the downpour intensifying, water streaming across the brick patio in shimmering puddles under the hazy street lamp. I looked straight into his eyes, rain mingling with my tears, salty on my lips. "James, I took that call from Emma's brother. He's after a share of the land. Says she promised to divide it. Did you know? Or are you in on it?" My voice trembled, blended with the howling wind and relentless rain, like a chaotic symphony. James recoiled, stepping back, rain plastering his hair to his forehead. "Emma's brother." "Mum, what are you on about?" "I don't know him. She mentioned a brother back home, but..." His words faltered, layered with hesitation like he was weighing them, or hiding. I gripped his arm tight, nails digging in painfully. "Don't lie to me anymore. I found your dad's notebook. He knew about Emma's past, her name change, the land feud with her own family. Why did he hide it from me? And what did you marry her for?" "The money." James yanked his arm free, face flushing in the rain, water cascading down his cheeks. Rain or tears. I couldn't tell Mum. "Why are you digging like this? I love her for real. Her past, I knew bits, but I thought she'd changed. Her brother, she said he's an addict, always after cash, but I'm not involved." His voice rose above the storm, but I caught the edge, anger laced with fear, like the boy caught nicking sweets years ago. I shook my head. The wind and rain lashing my face, numbing me to the bone, changed. Why was she rooting through my wardrobe? Why the shadow in the night, hunting for the deeds? "And you forced me to choose, but now I suspect you want to sell this house too. Aunt Evelyn and Uncle Harold say you're jealous because she cares more for me." James let out a bitter laugh, drowned by distant thunder. "Here's for you. She cares about the money. Mum, I'm just protecting you. But if you pick her, I'm gone for good." His words cut like a knife, but in the blur of rain, everything felt uncertain who was the liar. We stood there, drenched to the skin, clothes clinging coldly, chilling us through. The wet earth smell rose sharply, mixed with smoke from a neighbor's fire for warmth, evoking those old winter rains when the family would huddle around a steaming bowl of soup. But now it was just me and James, once so close, now divided like opposite banks of the Thames. I pressed on James. "Tell the truth. Do you know her brother? Was he the one sneaking in?" James shook his head, water spraying. "Mum, I swear. But Emma, she's been off lately. Late night calls, chatting to mates about solicitors. I reckon she wants you to sign power of attorney." His voice softened, pleading like he wanted my trust, but also shifting all blame to her. Anger surged in me, hot, despite the cold rain. Then why not say sooner? Why the ultimatum? In our family ways, I'm the one who keeps things steady. But now it's all gone to pot because of you two. James dropped to his knees in the puddle, water splashing. "Mum, I'm sorry, but you have to choose. If it's her, I can't stay. This house, it's yours, but I won't let her take it. His words hit home. There was no going back. Rain poured relentlessly, thunder rumbling closer, flashing across his sodden, anguished face. I stood clutching my chest, heart feeling like it was splintering. James, I choose myself. I won't pick either. Sort it out between you. But the words choked me, because through the rain, I spotted Emma's silhouette at the upstairs window, watching, her eyes glinting in the light like she'd been eavesdropping. James rose and hugged me. Mom, don't be like that. We could just send her packing. But the embrace was frigid, rain soaking through, making me shiver. I pushed him away. No, James, I need time. Get inside. The storm's worsening. We trudged back, dripping trails across the kitchen floor, the musty damp spreading. Emma came down with towels. Mom, James, what happened? Shall I make some ginger tea? She smiled, but her eyes darted away, layered, knowing everything, or still acting. That night, the house was silent, save for the pattering rain outside, the wind biting cold. I lay in bed, clutching my husband's notebook, its pages damp from the rain, ink smudged. Choosing myself, not James or Emma, left me more alone than ever. But then, a late-night ring, the brother's number. Meet me. Emma hasn't told the whole truth. James, he knows everything. My heart stopped. Those words thundered like lightning, jolting me upright. James knows. Or is it a trap? And Emma, asleep beside him or plotting? I peered out the window, rain streaming. But under the oak, a shadow stood staring up at the house. Who was it? And was my choice a mistake? After that call from Emma's brother, or Emily, her real name, I slumped into the kitchen chair, the old wooden one where my husband used to sit every morning with his black coffee, its flaking varnish scraping against my skin like a stark reminder of the irreparable fissures in life. The man's voice still echoed in my ears, shrill and laced with menace. Hello, it's me, Emma's brother. We need to meet about the land share. Emma promised to split it. My heart pounded erratically, racing so fast I had to press a hand to my chest, feeling like it might explode under the crushing weight of these accumulating secrets, piling up like layers of dust on the family shrine. Outside, dark clouds gathered, the crisp autumn wind in London whipping up, carrying the damp earthiness from the brick patio, signaling an oncoming downpour that might cleanse everything or sweep away what little was left. I glanced around the kitchen. The bitter aroma of James's morning coffee still hanging in the air, mingled with the ginger from my unfinished tea, twisting my stomach into knots. Emma and James were upstairs, their argument filtering down, James's voice sharp. Explain yourself. What does your brother want? Emma sobbed. Stop doubting me. It's ancient history, but her tone had an undercurrent, not pure heartache, but like she was concealing something, akin to those indirect murmurs in British families, where truths are buried to save face. I knew I had to confront it. I couldn't let these shadows linger in the house any longer. In our family ways, head-on clashes are often seen as a lack of forbearance. But now I had no other option. I called James down, my voice soft but resolute. James, we need to talk. Outside, it's about to pour. He came down, looking gaunt, the tobacco scent clinging to his white shirt, his eyes red-rimmed under the yellowish kitchen light. Now, Mom, Emma's up there crying. I shook my head, grabbing his hand and pulling him to the garden. That's why. I don't want her overhearing. We stepped out, the wind lashing our faces, stirring fine dust from the quiet street, where neighbors were shutting windows against the storm. The old oak in the garden swayed, leaves scattering like omens of the fracture ahead. James met my gaze, his eyes wavering. What else have you found? Mom, that letter. I swear I didn't know. The rain began, fat drops pattering on the slate roof, icy cold seeping through my thin cotton cardigan, raising goosebumps on my skin. We sheltered under the oak's canopy, the downpour intensifying, water streaming across the brick patio in shimmering puddles under the hazy street lamp. I looked straight into his eyes, rain mingling with my tears. Salty on my lips, James. I took that call from Emma's brother. He's after a share of the land. Says she promised to divide it. Did you know, or are you in on it? My voice trembled, blended with the howling wind and relentless rain, like a chaotic symphony. James recoiled, stepping back, rain plastering his hair to his forehead. Emma's brother. Mom, what are you on about? I don't know him. She mentioned a brother back home, but his words faltered, layered with hesitation like he was weighing them or hiding. I gripped his arm tight, nails digging in painfully. Don't lie to me anymore. I found your dad's notebook. He knew about Emma's past, her name change. The land feud with her own family. Why did he hide it from me? And you, what did you marry her for? The money. James yanked his arm free, face flushing in the rain, water cascading down his cheeks. Rain or tears. I couldn't tell Mum. Why are you digging like this? I love her for real. Her past. I knew bits, but I thought she'd changed. Her brother. She said he's an addict, always after cash, but I'm not involved. His voice rose above the storm, but I caught the edge, anger laced with fear, like the boy caught nicking sweets years ago. I shook my head. The wind and rain lashing my face, numbing me to the bone changed. Why was she rooting through my wardrobe? Why the shadow in the night, hunting for the deeds? And you forced me to choose, but now I suspect you want to sell this house too. Aunt Evelyn and Uncle Harold say you're jealous because she cares more for me. James let out a bitter laugh. Drowned by distant thunder cares for you. She cares about the money. Mom, I'm just protecting you. But if you pick her, I'm gone for good. His words cut like a knife. But in the blur of rain, everything felt uncertain. Who was the liar? We stood there, drenched to the skin, clothes clinging coldly, chilling us through. The wet earth smell rose sharply, mixed with smoke from a neighbor's fire for warmth, evoking those old winter rains when the family would huddle around a steaming bowl of soup. But now it was just me and James, once so close, now divided like opposite banks of the Thames. I pressed on James. Tell the truth. Do you know her brother? Was he the one sneaking in? James shook his head. Water spraying? No. Mom, I swear. But Emma, she's been off lately. Late night calls, chatting to mates about solicitors. I reckon she wants you to sign power of attorney. His voice softened, pleading like he wanted my trust, but also shifting all blame to her. Anger surged in me, hot, despite the cold rain. Then why not say sooner? Why the ultimatum? In our family ways, I'm the one who keeps things steady. But now it's all gone to pot because of you two. James dropped to his knees in the puddle, water splashing. Mum, I'm sorry, but you have to choose. If it's her, I can't stay. This house, it's yours, but I won't let her take it. His words hit home. There was no going back. Rain poured relentlessly, thunder rumbling closer, flashing across his sodden, anguished face. I stood clutching my chest, heart feeling like it was splintering. James, I choose myself. I won't pick either. Sort it out between you. But the words choked me, because through the rain, I spotted Emma's silhouette at the upstairs window, watching, her eyes glinting in the light like she'd been eavesdropping. James rose and hugged me. Mum, don't be like that. We could just send her packing. But the embrace was frigid, rain soaking through, making me shiver. I pushed him away. No, James, I need time. Get inside. The storm's worsening. We trudged back, dripping trails across the kitchen floor. The musty damp spreading. Emma came down with towels. Mum, James, what happened? Shall I make some ginger tea? She smiled, but her eyes darted away, layered, knowing everything, or still acting. That night, the house was silent, save for the pattering rain outside, the wind biting cold. I lay in bed, clutching my husband's notebook, its pages damp from the rain, ink smudged. Choosing myself, not James or Emma, left me more alone than ever. But then, a late night ring. The brother's number. Meet me. Emma hasn't told the whole truth. James, he knows everything. My heart stopped. Those words thundered like lightning, jolting me upright. James knows, or is it a trap? And Emma, asleep beside him or plotting. I peered out the window, rain streaming, but under the oak, a shadow stood staring up at the house. Who was it? And was my choice a mistake? After that confrontation in the rain with James, I trudged back into the house, my clothes sodden and dripping rainwater from the hem of my cardigan onto the cold tiled kitchen floor, each plop like a whispered reproach from the very home itself. The one my husband and I had scrimped and saved our whole lives to build. From the first bricks bought with earnings from the local market stall to the faded paint on the walls now worn by time, the damp earthy scent from the garden seeped in, mingling with the stale bitterness of this morning's coffee, making the air feel more stifling than ever. Emma stood in the kitchen doorway, towel in hand, her smile now forced under the harsh fluorescent light, like a mask starting to crack. Mom, are you freezing? Shall I brew some ginger tea for you? Her voice was honey sweet, but with an undercurrent. Was it concern or probing to see what I'd said to James? I shook my head, hand on my chest, my heart still thumping like after a marathon, the chill rain soaking through my skin and making me shiver. James followed, shutting the door behind him with a sharp click that cut through my thoughts. He glanced at Emma, his eyes flickering. You heard everything, didn't you? Emma nodded, her gaze sliding to me. Heard what? Love. The rain was too loud, I couldn't make it out. But her tone pitched higher, laced with a hidden edge of anger, as if resenting being shut out of our family chat. Choosing myself. Those words still echoed in my head like a vow, sworn in the storm. But now, as I sank into the old armchair in the living room, its thin cushion sagging from years of use, I felt the full weight of their consequences in our family. Like so many British ones, mums are expected to be the sacrificers. The peacekeeper's lease said, soonest mended, but this time, I wasn't backing down. I looked at James and Emma, the two I'd once seen as my own James by blood. Emma like a daughter now facing off, the tension thick as a taut string about to snap. I choose myself. I repeated, my voice quiet but firm, clutching the towel Emma had handed me, its rough cotton scraping my palms, carrying a faint lemony soap scent. James froze, his face paling under the light. Mum, what do you mean? You're not choosing me. Emma jumped in, her voice wavering. Mum, I get it. But James, stop pressuring her. We need to stick together as a family. But her words had a layer, like she was trying to pull me to her side, or covering her own secrets. James spun on her stick together. You dare say that? With your brother after money, with the past you've hidden. Emma burst into tears, streaks running down her cheeks. You stop it. Mum's exhausted. I sat there, feeling like I was watching a domestic drama unfold. Every line loaded with double meanings, and me the mum now an unwilling spectator. The real storm hit the next morning. The phone rang off the hook, its chime echoing through the house like a warning from the ancestors at the shrine, where incense smoke still curled lazily, its soothing scent now feeling oppressively heavy. First came Aunt Evelyn, my late husband's sister, living on the outskirts of London. Her voice shrill over the line. Love, I've heard everything from James. You chose yourself. I'm with you. Emma's a queer one, coming up from the sticks who knows her game. I'll talk to Uncle Harold. Don't let them take advantage. I gripped the phone, nails digging into the hard plastic, a sting shooting up my arm. Aunt Evelyn was always blunt, in that no-nonsense northern way, putting blood family first. But her words filled me with a mix of pride and isolation. Pride that someone understood. Isolation because she was drawing battle lines. I whispered back, Auntie, I just want peace. Don't make a fuss. But she chuckled, peace. What peace? That inheritance is yours. Your husband's legacy. I'll pop over this afternoon. The line went dead, leaving me with a long beep, like a nudge that the fallout was spreading. Then Uncle Harold rang from Bristol, his voice deep and warm but edged with anger. Sis, Emma told me, you chose yourself. She's been crying all night, saying you've got her wrong. I'm turning my back on you now. You know that James is the selfish one, wanting to hog the house. I'm on Emma's side. She genuinely cares for you. I collapsed onto the sofa, the worn fabric brushing my skin, dust puffing up. Uncle Harold, my husband's brother, had always been fond of Emma, what with her sending him little treats from Wales, like bara bryth or laverbread, reminders of home. But his words sliced deep. Think hard. Sis, the family's breaking because of you. I choked out, Uncle. I don't want it to break, but I have to look out for myself. He sighed. Look out. Or greedy. Emma's good James is the problem. The call ended, leaving me drowning in loneliness, like the Thames rising in flood, washing away the familiar. Even the neighbors started gossiping. Mrs. Patel from next door, who often brought over fresh veg from her allotment, popped in with a basket of fruit, the sweet ripeness of pears filling the kitchen. You all right? Dear, heard James and Emma rowing something fierce. You chose yourself. Good on you, us women have to stand strong. But watch out, Emma's clever, always on the phone to her lot back home. Her whisper was caring, but prying like neighbors do, just concerned to mask the nosiness. I forced a smile, holding a pear, its smooth skin cool under my fingers. Thanks. Love, I'm managing, but inside, a flicker of pride at my resolve. For the first time after years of giving, I was putting myself first. Yet loneliness crashed in when Aunt Evelyn arrived that afternoon, toting a pot of steaming chicken soup, ginger and lemongrass wafting through. Dear, I'll stay a few days. James is out of line, forcing you to pick. But when James got home and saw her, his face flushed. Aunt Evelyn, stay out of it. This is our family business. Emma hovered, tearful. Auntie, I'm innocent. Mum's got it wrong. The air crackled, spoons clinking awkwardly in soup bowls, everyone forcing it down like it was sawdust. That evening, the house was packed, Aunt Evelyn staying over, Uncle Harold on video call from Bristol, his stern face glowing on the screen. Family meeting time. What does choosing yourself mean? Selling up and splitting fare. James butted in no. Mom, ignore him. Emma's the issue. Emma wailed, I'm leaving. Back to Wales. Aunt Evelyn defended me. Calm down. Your mom suffered enough, now you're all badgering her. I sat in the middle, feeling like I was in a family courtroom, the cooling soup turning my stomach. Reactions varied. Aunt Evelyn supportive, Uncle Harold against me, James furious but clinging on, Emma sobbing like the victim. I faced the isolation, sleepless nights, hugging my husband's photo, its glossy chill under my fingers, wondering if this was worth it. But there was pride too, no longer the blindly sacrificing mum, in that stiff upper lip tradition, but a woman finally guarding her own corner. The fallout escalated when James decided to move out temporarily, wheeling his suitcase, the scrape on the wooden floor like a farewell screech. Mum, just for a few days. Think it over. Emma stayed, but her eyes shifted no more sweetness, just veiled resentment, Mum. I'll prove I'm innocent. Aunt Evelyn stuck by me, but she moaned, you're in a right pickle. But now it's all smashed. Uncle Harold texted Sis, no more calls. Emma's coming to stay with me. I sat alone on the balcony, the biting wind carrying distant bonfire smoke, loneliness like a fog enveloping me. But pride crept in. I'd stood firm. Even if the cost was the heavy silence in a house once full of laughter, now just wind howling. Then one afternoon, Emma's brother rang again, his voice sneering. I know you chose yourself, but Emma hasn't spilled it all. James, he contacted me first. My heart clenched like a vice. James, in on it from the start, or another lie. I stared into the garden, where that shadow had lurked in the rain, now seeming to return under the yellowing oak leaves. Who was telling the truth, and what consequences lay ahead? Months after that unexpected meeting with James in the drizzle, the house felt a tad less chilly, though the winter wind still whistled through the creaky window frames, carrying the smoky scent of burning leaves from neighboring gardens, mingled with the damp earthiness from the brick patio, now slick with green moss after days of relentless rain. I sat on the balcony, cradling a steaming mug of ginger tea, the warmth spreading through my bony hands, but it couldn't dispel the fog of loneliness enveloping my soul. A fog thinned slightly by James's promise of reconciliation, yet still thick with doubts and unhealed wounds. Emma's message lingered on my phone, the screen glowing harshly under the yellowish lamp. Mum, James saw you. I need to talk about my brother. And James. I read it over and over, my finger tracing the cold glass, feeling like I was touching a ticking bomb, but I hadn't dared to detonate it fully, fearing the truth inside would shatter the fragile bridge I was trying to rebuild with my son. In our family traditions, reconciliation often starts with small gestures, like a shared Sunday roast or a weekend visit, without dredging up faults outright, letting time mend things. But this time, it was all more tangled, because trust had shattered like the porcelain cup I'd dropped last week, its sharp shards still lurking under the kitchen table. I decided to start rebuilding with James first, as he was my own flesh and blood. The boy I'd sacrificed everything for, from flogging veg at the local market, in pouring rain to sleepless nights, sewing for neighbors to pay his school fees. I rang him one rare sunny morning, the crisp breeze carrying the faint scent of late-blooming honeysuckle from the street, the phone ringing long before he picked up Mum. I'm in a meeting. What's up? His voice was rushed, with an undercurrent. Was it genuine busyness or avoidance? I swallowed hard, keeping my tone soft. Love, come home for dinner this weekend. I'll make chicken soup, your favorite. He paused, a sigh like a gust of wind over the line. All right, I'll try, but Emma, has she messaged you? I stiffened, gripping the phone, nails digging into the hard plastic she has. Son, but I want to see you first. Let's talk. He agreed, but his voice layered with hesitation, like he was weighing words or hiding something about Emma. I hung up, slumping into the old sofa, its worn fabric brushing my skin, dust puffing up and stirring memories of afternoons with James curled up watching telly. Head on my lap, now just faded echoes. That weekend, James arrived, bearing a vibrant bunch of chrysanthemums, the kind I like to place by your dad's photo, their gentle fragrance filling the kitchen, blending with the ginger and lemongrass from the bubbling pot of soup on the hob. He stepped in, his white shirt crisp but face drawn, a faint tobacco whiff hinting at nights he'd smoked in secret after rows with Emma. We gathered around the old wooden table, spoons clinking against bowls, the steaming soup sending up clouds, its spicy kick melting on my tongue, stinging my eyes not just from the steam, but from the emotions welling up. James served me a ladleful here. "Mum, you're looking too thin." His voice was warm, but layered real concern, or paving the way for a tough chat. I managed a weak smile, swallowing a spoonful. "I'm all right. Love. How about you and Emma?" He set down his spoon with a soft clink that echoed. "She's still in Bristol with Uncle Harold. But, Mum, I want to apologize. I was wrong to force you to choose." His words caught, eyes darting away, like the boy confessing to pinching biscuits years ago. I took his hand, his skin warm but distant. "I forgive you, son, but we need new boundaries. I don't want inheritance talk muddying things anymore. This house is mine until I'm gone. Then it's up to you." He nodded, but his grip tightened. "I get it. Mum, I won't push. But Emma, she wants to see you, to explain about her brother." I pulled back, feeling like I'd touched fire. "Explain. What do you know about him?" James shook his head, voice low. "Not everything, but Emma says I met him once, before the wedding. He was in debt. She asked for help, but I said no." His words layered, confessing a bit. But how much hidden? We carried on eating, but the air hung heavy, wind howling outside, bringing the scent of impending rain, like a warning that this bridge was still half built. After the meal, James joined me on the balcony, the biting wind whipping through, oak leaves swirling down to the patio like whispers from the past. He lit a cigarette, smoke drifting lazily under the yellowish street lamp. "Mum, can I stay a few days? To look after you?" I eyed him, his gaze unsteady. "Love, I'd like that. But what about Emma? She's your wife." He stubbed it out, a faint sizzle. "I'll divorce if needed. For you." His words cut deep, but layered true sacrifice or manipulation. I shook my head. "Don't. Son, marriage is sacred and our family got to try and keep it. But I need time to trust again." We set new boundaries. James visits weekends. No asset talk. And Emma stays away until she wants to meet. But then barriers rose, a text from Uncle Harold's sis. "Emma's in tears. Says James hid stuff about her brother from you. He lent money once. Now wants it back via your house." My heart clenched, sweat beating despite the cool air. James lent, or Emma fabricating to divide us. I decided to FaceTime Emma, her gaunt face glowing on the screen, eyes red under Bristol lights. "Mom, I miss you." "James, he knows all about my brother. He sent cash from our savings once, but now blames me." Her voice trembled, layered, pleading, but with resentment, like pulling me to her side. I clutched the phone. "Emma, I don't know who's right, but choosing myself means staying out of it." She sobbed. "Mom, I can prove it. I've got bank slips from his account." Her words thundered, but I ended the call, head spinning. James sent money. Was he in from the start? I rang him immediately, voice rising. "Son, Emma says you wired cash to her brother." "Truth." He paused long, then sighed. "Mom, just once, to help her, because I loved her. Didn't want you knowing." His confirmation layered remorse, or deeper cover. I sank to the balcony floor, wind lashing my face, numbing cold. The bridge I'd tried building now snapped midway, new barriers sprouting like weeds after rain. Trust crumbling again, though mother-son love lingered, aching like an old scar. Aunt Evelyn dropped by that afternoon, basket of fruit in hand, ripe pears scenting the kitchen. She sat with me, holding my hand. "Don't believe Emma. Love, she's sharp. But James, our lad's wrong too. Set boundaries, don't let them back easy. But mind your requests." I nodded, but doubt swirled. We laid rules. James visits with Aunt Evelyn present. No overnights, and Emma proves evidence before meeting. But that evening, the phone rang an unknown number. A man's shrill voice. "Hello, it's me, Emma's brother. James owes me cash. Now he's using your house to pay. Let's meet." Heart racing, sweat chilling. James owes, or Emma pulling strings. I stared into the dark garden, under the oak's yellowing leaves, where a shadow moved closer to the door. Someone knocking, thuds like my heartbeat. James, Emma, her brother, and this bridge, could it be salvaged? When the new barriers stemmed from secrets from my own son, months after that mysterious knock at the door, my house, this weathered oak cottage, with its red brick patio, now veiled in a thin layer of moss, after endless rainy spells, feels like a quiet companion, bearing witness to my journey of self-reflection, Under the waning moon on those crisp London nights, the wind whistles through the ancient oak out front, carrying the smoky tang of distant bonfires, blended with the faint incense from my husband's shrine, where his photo still smiles kindly, as if whispering, "You made the right choice." Love. I sit on the balcony, clutching a mug of Earl Grey gone cold, the chills seeping from the white porcelain into my fingertips, but it can't dispel the hazy fog clouding my mind. A fog of introspection about my decision to choose myself amid son and daughter-in-law, between love and self-respect. In our family ways here in Britain, mums are often the silent backbone, giving everything until they forget themselves as long as the kids are all right. But now, I wonder, was that choice truly worth it? When the families changed forever, like an old watercolor blurred by the rain, I think back on that long, winding path. Starting from the night James issued his ultimatum in the kitchen, under the dim amber light, the faint aroma of freshly brewed coffee still lingering, his words cutting like a knife. "You have to choose between me and Emma." My heart clenched then, like a vice grip. Breaths coming fast amid the scent of the sticky toffee pudding I'd made that afternoon, his favorite since he was a lad. How much had I sacrificed selling my wedding ring for his tuition, staying up all night sewing for neighbors after my husband passed, even shelving my own dreams of night school to raise him. But now he was forcing a choice. And Emma, the daughter-in-law I'd once treated like my own girl, with her shy smile when she joined the family, teaching her to make mince pies for Christmas, now revealed layers scheming over assets, changing her name to hide a past land dispute back in rural Wales. I flipped through my husband's old notebook in the wooden box, its pages yellowed with age, the musty ink scent wafting up, his notes reading, "Check Emma thoroughly, don't let James suffer." He'd known, but kept it from me to maintain harmony in that traditional British bloke way. Men build the house. Women make the home, but I chose action, gathering evidence from Mrs. Hargreaves, confronting James in the rain, and ultimately choosing myself not selfishly, but to safeguard what remained of my life. The family's altered beyond repair, like an ancient oak in the village green felled by a gale. Branches snapped, but roots still clinging deep in the soil. James visits weekends, bringing a bunch of chrysanthemums or hot pasties from the market, their oniony aroma filling the kitchen, but our chats now have undercurrents. He asks after my health, yet his eyes dart away at Emma's mention, like he's hiding late-night calls from her brother. "Mom, I got some Earl Grey for you to brew. Mind your health." "All right," he says, voice warm but laced with a plea, as if begging me to forget he once wired money to Emma's brother, just helping my wife that once. I nod, chewing the flaky pastry, the tangy chutney bursting on my tongue. But suspicion lingers. Is he truly remorseful or plotting something with the inheritance? Emma texts long messages from Bristol. "Mom, I miss you. James has got me all wrong. I'll prove it." Her voice trembles on video calls, eyes red under the city's neon glow, but layered beseeching, mixed with blame, like she's shifting fault to James to win me over. Uncle Harold's turned his back, wiring money monthly like clockwork. I duty not affection, and Aunt Evelyn drops by often, toting a pot of shepherd's pie steaming hot, herbs wafting through. She sits with me in the kitchen, holding my hand. "You're a tough one, dear, but now they're all distant, you're so alone." Her words layered caring, but tinged with pity, reminding me of the cost of standing firm. I found strength within, like a sturdy British oak bending, but not breaking in the storm. Mornings, I rise early for a walk by the Thames, the chill wind whipping my face, carrying the faint lily scent from late blooms, birds chirping overhead, echoing those hard days after my husband's passing, when I soldiered on alone to raise James. Now, I'm learning to live for me, signing up for watercolor classes at the community center, brush soft in hand, paints bleeding on delicate paper, capturing English countryside scenes with village greens and ancient churches, symbols of the endurance I'd lost sight of. Mrs. Hargreaves remains my rock. We meet at a cafe by the river, the sweet milky tea aroma drifting, and she laughs. "You've changed." Love. No more the mum who gives till she's empty. But scars remain. Like nights I jolt awake from nightmares of the shadow under the oak knocking, thuds echoing, and Emma's brother sneering, "You owe me plenty," and James is settling with your house. I sit up, cold sweat soaking my cotton nightie, hand shaking as I sip water, its coolness sliding down, but not easing the vague fear. Has James really changed? Or is he using mother-son bonds to edge towards the house deeds? One evening under the waning moon, wind howling through the branches, bringing the scent of approaching rain from the Thames, I sit on the balcony, hugging the old notebook, its rough pages scraping my palms, flipping through my husband's words. Moonlight slants through, silvery on the polished wooden floor, reflecting my face in the tea mug deeper lines, but eyes more resolute than ever. I wonder, was choosing myself worth it? The family's fractured, but I'm no longer the victim, no longer waiting for calls from the kids. Instead, crafting my own joys like a trip to the local church on Sundays, lighting a candle for peace, the incense soothing, reminding me of values like family first that I once lived by. But then, the phone rings. James. I answer. His voice urgent. Mom, I need to see you now. Emma. She's back in London. And her brother. He's got proof about me. My heart tightens, like a fist squeezing. Breaths quick amid the balcony wind. Proof. What about James? Is Emma setting a trap for the house? I gaze at the moon, its hazy light spilling onto the patio, where the shadow once stood, now seeming to return, moving slowly under the oak's branches. Someone's approaching the door, footsteps soft on the damp bricks. James, Emma, her brother. And under this moonlight, I see myself clearly stronger, yet the future hazy with hope, veiled secrets still to unfold. Will I have to choose again?